we're going to break in locally. It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell, and we're now on the line with Republican Assemblyman Joe Giglio. Assemblyman, thank you for taking our call on the weekend.
Oh, you're welcome, Brian. No problem.
Assemblyman Joe Giglio, you represent, and correct me if I'm wrong, doing this by memory, and my memory is not the best, parts of Allegheny County and parts of Steuben County. I believe there's a couple other counties in there as well. What are you hearing from towns in the district? And I'm thinking Almond and Alfred and Jasper and Greenwood. What I think I'm getting the right towns in there. What are you hearing, Assemblyman?
You're just about perfect. Like I said, I have all of Allegheny and the four towns of Steuben and all of Cattaraugus.
What kind of I'm guessing that you've heard from emergency calls, maybe from the mayors and the town supervisors. What are you hearing from the district?
Actually, what we're hearing is everybody's prepared. So far, we haven't had to go. We haven't had to go to any of the extremes that are happening in some of the other parts of the state. But we're prepared, and we're monitoring, and we're sheltering in place and staying home. The towns and villages and stuff at the counties have to reduce their workforce. They have been making those plans, and some of them have already accomplished it. As we prepare for what appears to be going to be a little bit of a time here to get over what we're concerned about, as you know, the curve that they keep talking about and flattening it. We're concerned about the next wave, and that concern also includes the number of hospital beds, the number of personnel. We're still trying to get more testing kits our way. All those things are happening on a daily, hourly basis, Brian. We're preparing, and we're trying to prevent. And the towns and the villages and the counties are doing a really good job. But we're all working together. Yesterday, we were on a phone call with Congressman Reed, talking about these very things and explaining to those that hadn't been updated because you need an update all the time, exactly who was essential, who wasn't, and those kind of things, and the businesses that were able to stay open, things like grocery stores. People heard rumors that grocery stores were going to have to close. No, they're not, and so you can go trying to get rid of the rumor part and give people facts of who's out there and who's working and how we can then contact the state. If the community, if the county or the town or the village is confused, contact us at the state, and we'll clear up anything that is confusing to them. But the problem is, like I just told you, Brian, it's been a changing landscape, and it's been changing pretty quickly. So, it's our job to keep up with it and keep everybody informed.
Talking with Assemblyman Joe Giglio, who's been good enough to come on with us this weekend, live here on AM 1480 WLEA. I received an email here from the Steuben County Industrial Development Agency. They wanted us to know, and I'm passing this along to both you and our listeners, because of the governor's disaster declaration. Looking at a document here, it says federal COVID-19 disaster declaration makes economic injury disaster loans available due to the coronavirus 19 outbreak. It says the Small Business Administration, the U.S. SBA, is now offering low-interest federal disaster loans for working capital to small business that have suffered substantial economic injury as a result of the coronavirus, COVID-19 in New York State. And it goes on with lots of details on it. Now, from what I understand, this is one thing, and then Assemblyman Palmisano and the Assembly Republicans are working on other legislation. What can you tell us, Assemblyman Joe Giglio?
Well, what you just heard is what the federal response has been. So those monies will be coming available, and they probably won't stop soon. Some of the stuff that we're looking at is all part of an overall stimulus to help businesses through the hump that they're going to be facing, depending on how long this lasts. So a lot of that will have to do with probably some relief from some of the taxes and payroll taxes, things of that nature, are what we're looking at. The feds have already changed the federal tax share to September. I think that's one of the many options we've talked about doing with the state tax, income tax. So there's a lot of different things we're looking at. What we're exploring mainly, Brian, is first keeping them open, enough money to survive, and working with banks and anybody else that they'll be owing money to keep them alive and not make the deadlines hard. And the second thing we're looking at is what kind of stimulus package can we put together along with the federal government as the state of New York to keep these people working, and when we come out of it stronger and give them time to recover. So there's three things that work. There's we're keeping them presently, not losing their businesses and stuff. Second part is recovery, and the third part obviously is to get them back up to where they were before all this happened.
Now, Assemblyman Giglio, I'm looking at a statement here from last night from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. He talks about trying to get past the Small Business Emergency Recovery Act of 2020, and he says it would immediately direct the state settlement reserve fund of $890 million to small businesses, create a 0% loan interest program dedicated to helping small businesses meet their payroll, repurpose available tax credits to help small businesses in New York State, use all economic development discretionary funding for existing small businesses in the state, and it goes on and on about moving tax deadlines for remittance, business tax and personal income for 180 days, and it goes on and on. Assemblyman Joe Giglio, are you going to co-sponsor this with Assemblyman Palmisano?
Sure. This is a conference position that we're developing, and Phil's taking the lead on it. But it's a conference position that we're going to look for, and I would be surprised if not everybody in our conference co-sponsors that when it hits the floor, or before it hits the floor. But when he gets it, when it gets out of bill drafting, that's what I was trying to tell you earlier. These are the things we've looked into to get us to that point that we to save these small businesses and get us into recovery, and then get them back and make them whole by the time all this is behind us, hopefully.
Talking with Assemblyman Joe Giglio. One of the things that President Trump talked about was the job situation. Here's a little audio of the president.
Because we think we're going to have a tremendous bounce back. What they do right now is keep receiving their paycheck, and hopefully their companies are going to be in a very strong position. We want to keep everything together because we think we're going to have a tremendous bounce back.
And President Trump talked about no need to compel companies.
We have the act to use in case we need it, but we have so many things being made right now by so many. They've just stepped up. In fact, Mike Pence and I were discussing it before. We've never seen anything like it, where they are volunteering. We want to make masks.
Assemblyman Joe Giglio, a couple topics there from President Donald Trump. One, the protective masks for hospital workers and others, and two, the economy.
Well, let's start with the hospital workers. We have to make sure they're kept safe. We can't afford for them to get sick because they're the caretaker. And so, the president is exactly right. You have to go out there almost like a wartime economy and switch from producing what you're producing to producing these things that'll keep the medical professionals safe, who therefore then could keep us safe when and if somebody contracts the disease, and it prevents anybody else from getting it. So he's absolutely right, and I totally agree with him on the economy. If we do the things that you and I have just talked about, and the federal government puts in the money that they're talking about, I think that the recovery will be strong once we get through the crisis. And that's, I really believe that. I think we're better prepared than any country on the face of God's green earth. And I think that we will deal with this. And when we're done dealing with this, we will come up with the vaccines that are necessary. Our scientists will do that. And then we will put the economy back together. and hopefully, like he said, be stronger than we ever were before. We were in a good position to be strong because we were strong going in.
And we've got about 60 seconds left with Assemblyman Joe Giglio. Wanted to get your thoughts on something that Governor Andrew Cuomo said here about young people and the coronavirus.
You're not Superman, and you're not Superwoman. You can get this virus, and you can transfer the virus, and you can wind up hurting someone who you love or hurting someone wholly inadvertently.
Assemblyman Giglio.
Well, again, we all know that when we're young, we think we're invincible, and we're not thinking that we can spread it. And so what he's saying is right. Everybody, we're all in this together, and you've probably heard that billions of times already. We're all in this together. The young have to protect themselves and protect who they deal with. We have to protect everybody as a community, and we have to get through this curve until we flatten it and we have the tools necessary to fight the disease so that we all, just like business, can be made whole again.
Assemblyman Joe Giglio, so nice to take time out of his busy schedule. Was there anything I did not bring up that you wanted to cover here in the last, I'm giving myself another 60 seconds with you. Thank you for joining us. And anything else to close with?
No, Brian, you're very thorough, and you guys are doing a great service by putting this information out there for everybody to hear. Because the more information people get, the better they'll respond. Obviously, they'll know how to respond. And I know our community will respond as well as anybody else in the country. So I'm real thankful that you guys are out there, and I'm thankful that the people around here have so much common sense.
Assemblyman Giglio, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Brian.